Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Laurie Schoenfeld, and this is the Inner Enlightenment Show. I am so very excited to have our last episode of the season be with Tiffany Barnes, as she's going to be talking about joy within finding your voice today. Welcome, Tiffany. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I met Tiffany through a mutual friend last year. I found her event that she hosts usually in May that's for her foundation and organization called S.H.A.R.E. S.H.A.R.E stands for Sharing Hope for the Abused Through Resilience and Empowerment. And this is a message that's very dear to my heart that I'm passionate about, but I also know that Tiffany is passionate about as well, as we've both experienced this firsthand. So I'm really excited to be talking about her journey, her organization, what she's up to. There's so much within her story that's needed within the world right now. And so welcome. Thank you for coming and sharing your heart and your voice with us today.
Absolutely.
So let's just jump right into it, because I wanted to hear, first off, your story and lead it into why you started the S.H.A.R.E organization.
Okay. So for the first 13 years of my life, I had endured every form of abuse. Physical, sexual, emotional, you name it. And one of the biggest forms of abuse that affected me the most in my life, even today, was the sexual abuse that I encountered with my stepfather. Now, my stepfather was a 6'2", intimidating man, had a big temper. Oftentimes when my mom and him would fight, my mom would get hauled away in an ambulance because of the violence. And he was molesting me for about 9 months. And he had said that if I said anything to anybody, that he would kill me. And when you're 13 years old and you have a grown adult threatening your life, saying, hey, you say anything to anybody, I'll kill you, and you see the violent behavior that's taking place in your home, to kind of back that up, I believed him. I legitimately thought if I said a word to anyone, I was going to be killed. And so I kept my mouth shut, and I went through this abuse, as I mentioned, for about the 9 months. And my mom is a drug addict. She's been a drug addict my entire life, and she's never really taken any stock in my life and where I'm at. And I hate to say it this way, but growing up, I felt a lot like I was just a paycheck to her through child support. She'd get that child support and then she'd go blow it on her habit. And she just didn't see me anything else other than, that opportunity to feed her habit. And so I was getting ready for school one day, and my room was in the basement of the house. And, I was doing my hair or something, and my mom had come down there. And she had questioned why my stepfather had taken so long to wake me up. And because he'd always wake me up for school in the morning, and that's when a lot of the abuse would take place. And as soon as she asked me that, number one, I was kind of dumbfounded, because she, again, had never really asked or, wondered what was going on in my life or really cared. So I thought, oh, well, maybe this one time she'll protect me if I say something. And then it was almost like the devil and the angel. Then I had this other voice in my head that said, well, if you say anything, he's going to kill you. And so I made up an excuse. I said, oh, maybe he was changing the furnace filter. Maybe he was doing laundry, or whatever the case was. And, she wasn't buying it. And she asked me again, no, what's going on? Why did it take so long for him to wake you up? What's going on between the two of you? And so, with her persistence, again, that one side of me said, okay, she's going to protect me, because she's never really cared. And so I said, I'm being abused, and this is what's been taking place. And at the time when I was telling her, she seemed furious, and she calls him home from work, and we have this little family meeting around the table. And, I'm spewing out all these details of the sexual abuse that had been taking place, and he's denying everything. And he basically gives my mother an ultimatum. He says, Karen, you got to choose. Your daughter's a liar. I didn't do these things. It's going to be your daughter or me. And she didn't even hesitate 3 seconds. And she turned to me and said, you have until tomorrow to get the bleep out of my house. And here I am at 13 years old, I told a trusted adult, or what I thought was a trusted adult, especially because she was so persistent in asking what was going on about the abuse. And then the result is now I'm 13 years old and I'm going to be homeless, essentially. So, I go to school, I check myself out of school, didn't say goodbye to a lot of my friends, I was literally just kind of in a trance thinking, what just happened? And where am I going to go? And what's the rest of my life going to look like? And, I'm walking home from school that day, and we lived on a bit of a hill. Our street was on a hill, and I'm standing at the top of this hill, and I'm kind of looking down, walking towards my house. And I noticed there's a lot of people coming and going from the yard, and it looks like we're moving or something. People are carrying things, and I have this little spring in my step, like, wow, well, I was at school today. Mom must have had this change of heart, and she realized that she did the wrong thing, and we're moving out. We're moving away from this environment. And I had like this little wow, she finally put me first, if you can kind of relate to what I'm saying there. And I get closer to the house, and I notice we aren't moving anywhere. My mother was hosting a yard sale selling my belongings. So think about that. I'm walking home from school. My mom's selling my stuff. I'm now kicked out. Like, I was worth more to her as a dime, a quarter, or a penny for a material object than I was as her own flesh and blood daughter. And that was hard. That was a really hard thing to see. And it's something that still sticks with me today, that I can see it as if it just happened. And I went downstairs to my room, what was left of it. I grabbed one of those garbage bags that you put leaves in the fall. And I had a little Tootsie Roll bank. You remember those little Tootsie Roll banks? No. They look like Tootsie Rolls, and you put little coins in there. I had like $2 or $3, just enough to get on the bus. And so I, walked down to the UTA bus stop, didn't even say goodbye to my mom, walked past her in her yard sale. She didn't chase after me. She didn't ask where I was going. And it just kind of validated, where I stood with her. And I got on that bus and I took it into downtown Salt Lake City. And we're talking, this is in October. So, if you're here in Utah, those of you that are watching this, that it gets cold in October, the sun sets sooner, we get snow. And, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be sleeping on the streets of Salt Lake City. Like, where am I going to go? And the reason I thought that, by the way, because I'm sure some of your viewers might be thinking, well, why don't you call grandma and grandpa? Or why don't you call aunts and uncles? Or why don't you go stay with a friend? Because I didn't feel that was an option for me. The majority of my family on both sides are either drug abusers or child abusers or incarcerated. I didn't have a lot of safe places I could go. Mm-hmm. So the one place I felt I might be able to go was my biological father's house, which was up in Layton, Utah, which is about 40 minutes north of Utah or Salt Lake City, excuse me. So I jump on this bus, I take it into downtown Salt Lake City, take my transfer slip, and I go on to Layton, Utah to stay with my dad. Well, as I'm sitting in the back of this bus, I'm staring out the window and I'm thinking to myself, am I really making the right decision by going to my dad's house? And the reason I thought that is because from my earliest memory until I was 7 years old, my father was physically abusive towards me. And so I thought I was trading one evil for another, if you will, one abusive environment for another, but I didn't have a lot of choices. So I show up at his door, told him why I was there, and he takes me in. Well, because he takes me in, he takes on another job, and I become a latchkey kid. And I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this can identify with that. A latchkey kid is essentially where you're coming home from school, no parents are there. You might be getting up to go to school, no parents are there, and you're by yourself a lot. And going through such a traumatic experience and then spending all that time alone because my dad was working that second job. I'm talking, I'd wake up and then he wouldn't come home until like 7. So he'd be gone before I woke up. Wouldn't come home till about 7, 8 o'clock at night. That's a lot of time to be alone after such a traumatic experience. So naturally, I fell into a depression. I became anorexic. I became suicidal. I felt disgusting. I hated who I saw in the mirror. I thought, if the person who gave me life, my own mother, doesn't want me, what's the point of being on the planet? And then I made all these attempts to end my life. I hated myself. I didn't want to be here anymore. And then the turning point, the pivotal point for me was there was a morning I woke up, and I remember it so vividly. And I was staring at the wall, and I thought, today's going to be the day. Today's going to be the day I end my life. And then again, there's that other side, that other voice inside my head that says, but if you do that, you're letting this defeat you. You're letting them win, so to speak. And I realized I was better than this, and that I needed to get help. And that's one of the biggest things that you can do when you go through abuse, is seeking help. It's okay to seek help. I used to think seeking help was a weakness. It's not a weakness. And when I made that phone call and said, hey, here's where I'm at mentally and emotionally, and here's what I want to do, and all these things, that person helped me. That person was my angel, the reason I'm still here today. And long story short, I went through the process with my, why can I think of it, social worker, to become an emancipated minor. And I went through the court process. And, you know, when I went through the process, when we got to this point, I was 15 years old. And there was only one other case in the state of Utah at the time that had won an emancipation legally at 15. And I thought, why don't I try for it? What's the worst that can happen? You know? And so I basically stood before a judge and stated my case and said, I want to become an emancipated minor. And I became the second case in the state of Utah at the time for 15 years old to become an emancipated minor, meaning I was my own legal guardian. You know, some people might think, wow, that's so cool. You don't have parents at home, but it made me grow up really fast. But here's the biggest thing that it did for me, not to, you know, take up too much time here, but why I started S.H.A.R.E is I made myself a promise when I became emancipated. And that's a promise I've never broken to this day. And I'm almost 38 years old. So 23 years later. And that promise is that I would live everything live my life to be everything that my parents were not. Meaning I didn't want to be a high school dropout like them. I didn't want to be a teenager pregnant like them. I didn't want to be hooked on drugs like my mom. You know, I wanted to pay my bills unlike my father had showed me. You know, like I was taught all these opposite things that were okay. It's okay to have sex young. It's okay to not pay your debts. It's okay to, you know, just all these things that I grew up seeing to be okay. You know, we're a product of our environment. And, you know, I've been the opposite of that. And, you know, a lot of times when people interview me and say, how did you get to where you are? Because a lot of people judge a book by a cover and they say, there's no way you went through all that. You don't look like you've gone through all that. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's in there. I just don't allow my past to define me. I use it as a stepping stone, not a crutch. And, you know, when I was checking myself in and out of school, legitimately, I'd write myself a tardy note. It was the most hilarious thing. I'd be like, it was Tiffany Barnes for being late. Thank you, Tiffany Barnes. And then people would have, you know, my teachers would have to take it. And, you know, I could excuse myself to leave for the day or whatever. And kids would come up to me. And, you know, I was kind of known as the girl with a special circumstance. And kids would come up to me and say, well, why do you write your own notes? Where are your parents? Like, where do you live? You know, just inquisitive. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, you know, I'm emancipated and, you know, I'm paying rent and I'm working a job and doing these, you know, school and all this stuff. And they'd say, well, why? And, you know, I'd tell them about the abuse. And it was like a light bulb went off in my world. People started to come to me, my peers in high school, and say, I'm being abused. Or I know someone who's being abused. And they've never said a thing to anybody before, but they could identify with me. And so that light bulb for me was, this is the reason you didn't take your life. You are meant to be on this planet to help others find their light, to help others realize this doesn't have to define you. So I started a support group called S.H.A.R.E at Kearns High School in 1998. And S.H.A.R.E at the time stood for Students Helping the Abused React and Empower. And it was 10 kids. And then little did we know, somebody in our group wanted to tell somebody at Granger High School what we were doing, and then West Jordan High School. And then it started to take place that year in several high schools. And I was getting asked to come and give presentations on recognizing the signs of abuse to administration. And it just kind of snowballed. And here we are today, 2020. It is now a 501c3 nonprofit. And I never imagined it would have gained that much momentum. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, that is a reason I'm on the planet, to help people realize they can overcome abuse.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I know that there are a lot of viewers that will watch this video and resonate with that. Maybe they've been in the shadows some with their story. Maybe they've come out a little bit. Maybe they are sharing their story already, but hearing your story also gives that light to a message and an issue that is still happening today.
Yes.
Consistently happening today. Lots of kids in homes still experiencing massive sexual, physical, mental abuse within their homes. So there were like 3 things that you hit on. So I'm just going to kind of piece it together as we go. One of the things that you had brought up is, because I get this question a lot when I personally have gone through my own story of abuse and trauma, and you had talked about how the looks on the outside, often people question like, well, you couldn't have really gone through all of that because you look fine.
Sure.
And really having that conversation of, there's a lot that most of us are feeling internally and inside and going through that looks aren't going to show you. They're just not going to show you what's really happening internally within your home, within your family situation. And so when you had brought up the conversation of you had 2 choices. You could have stayed in the situation that you were in. I think this is such a powerful message no matter where you are in your life. You could have stayed where you were with what you knew, even though it was abusive and uncomfortable and harmful and toxic. Or you can choose at any point to say, this is not the life that I want to live and create. This doesn't feel good to me. I need to get out. I need to ask for help. I need to find that support. And that's a big thing you talked about that I really feel like oftentimes people say, I can't do this. It is going to be hard. That choice is never an easy choice, no matter what you're going through. But nothing is going to change until you decide to show up and make that hard choice for yourself.
Right. You know, that's a beautiful thing about life. Sorry to interrupt you.
You're good.
Every day we have this beautiful opportunity to change our lives around. Every day we're given that gift. So maybe you beat yourself up because you didn't overcome, especially right now with coronavirus, there's so much domestic violence is taking place because people are stuck in their homes. I mean, the statistics are staggering already, but with this virus, it's astounding. And, the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't matter what happened a week ago, yesterday, 10 years ago. Every day is an opportunity to turn it all around. You're given that gift. And once you can realize that it's the start that stops you. It's my favorite saying. I should patent it. It's the first step in anything that stops you. That first step of asking for help. That first step of realizing that there's an issue that needs to be handled. The first step of, oh my gosh, I don't want to look in the mirror anymore and think I'm the most disgusting person. It's just that first step in anything. And we are given that chance to turn it all around every single day. So.
Absolutely. So I want to go into finding your voice, because I'm sure that a lot of finding your voice, you had to learn what that felt like, particularly for you in a very different form with your situation.
Right.
But for you to go into that and talk about how you found your voice and what that has meant to you.
So I just mentioned it's the start that stops you. So here's what I would challenge any one of your viewers to realize. Start where you're at right now, today, and give yourself permission to speak from your heart and to find your voice. a lot of people don't give themselves the permission to move forward in that space. So with finding my voice, the first thing that helped me to find my voice is journaling. And I know that might sound a little silly, but by the time I was maybe 20 years old, I had 45, 50 journals that I had filled up. And it was my therapy. And I would challenge you, you know, one thing that I did that really helped me to find my voice is to look at things objectively. So what I mean by that is in my journal, maybe this one particular journal, I wrote about myself in third person, like what might I look like from somebody else's perspective? Or what might I want to tell myself, you know, something I want to read in the future of, you know, what you've gone through now to what you could be, if that makes any sense. So journaling's a big, big part of the process of finding your voice and giving yourself permission to find your voice. Another thing that I believe has helped me tremendously is to regularly spend time in stillness and silence. So I used to hate silence. I used to hate stillness because it made me uncomfortable, because that's when my thoughts could take over, right? And that alone time would just allow me to start to go into that rabbit hole of I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm a piece of crap, or I don't like who I see in the mirror, whatever those negative things are and those limiting beliefs or whatever that we're telling ourselves. But I challenge you, you know, meditation is a big thing for me. And it's hard for me to meditate. I'm going to be completely honest. It is hard to do. But it's really helped me to find my voice because I observe the thoughts that are going in and going out rather than trying to control my thoughts. And that's helped me to find my voice because when I meditate, I'm also thinking about what's my passion, right? So tap into your inner passion. So I used to think, oh, my passion is making money, because I would make, you know, well into the six figures for the last 15 years. I thought what I'm passionate about is making money, because then I can turn around, I can buy my dad a car, or I can go take my family on vacation or whatever. And that's not my passion. When in the stillness, I started to realize what kept coming to me was that little girl, that Tiffany, that 7 to 15-year-old Tiffany kept coming to me. And that's my voice. That's my passion, because I personally believe that every single one of us goes through what we do on this earth by choice. That's going to sound a little esoteric, but what I mean by that is I feel like I chose that card of I'm going to go through abuse so I can be a light worker, if you will, to others to realize they too can overcome abuse. So when you're thinking, okay, what is it that I have to offer? What is my voice? What is it that I want to speak loud about? Go inside and find that inner stillness and that peace and see what you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's even through journaling. And the thing about journaling too, at one point I would name my journal as if I were talking to a person. Personally, therapy didn't work for me so well. Like the one-to-one therapy, I've been through dozens of therapists in my life. And believe it or not, writing down the same things I might have told a therapist in a journal, but writing it to, you know, Dear Aubrey or whatever you name your journal, it was like an objective, I was kind of getting it out objectively, meaning I wasn't being judged. I wasn't being talked back to. I was just getting it out because it's like a cancer in your body if you don't get it out. And that's something that we have to realize. The other thing that I would say is huge in finding your voice is learning to cultivate your ability to listen to the world around you. So what's going on in the world around you? Right now, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, people maybe going down a financial road they don't want to because they can't pay their bills or whatever can be happening in their world. Listen to the world around you and say, okay, well, what is my voice? How do I feel about this? And how can I make a change? My favorite quote is, "Be the change you must see in the world," by Gandhi. And so many people, moan and complain about the world we live in. So change it. Well, I can't, Tiff. I'm one person. Yeah, you can. One person can have such a voice that causes that ripple effect, like the analogy we've all heard of in our lives when they throw a pebble into water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what's going on around you. And if you don't like the world that we live in, change it. It starts with that one step, right? It's the start that stops you. And then the final thing I would like to tell your viewers that will help you to find your voice, and it's huge, is find someone who truly believes in you. It's so important to have that support group, whether it's a spouse, a best friend, a family member. When I picked up that phone and I said, hey, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm about to do, and I know I need help, that person believed in me and gave me the strength I need to realize I wasn't in it alone. Mm-hmm. And then along the way, I've accumulated more of those people. I have a saying here in my kitchen that says, I believe that friends are quiet angels who lift us to our feet when our wings have trouble remembering how to fly. Surround yourself with like-minded people, because when you're around people that are trying to suppress you, you're not going to find your voice. Mm-hmm. You're going to start to become who they are. You know, birds of a feather flock together. Surround yourself with people that understand you, that allow you to be authentically you. And in that space, you will start to see your voice come through.
I have to just breathe that in for a minute.
I threw a lot at you there, but.
No, that was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
One of the things, too, that you'd mentioned from the beginning that I want to go over because it's so powerful is oftentimes a lot of the physical, mental, and emotional abuse that takes place is a generational thing. You've got to learn it somewhere. Just like Tiffany had talked about before, she didn't reach out to other family members because the majority of her family had some sort of substance abuse, some sort of physical, sexual abuse that's happening, and there wasn't that safety net. What she did that was different is, because it is a generational thing, you have to learn these behaviors somewhere. And within the home is a huge place where a lot of the ideas and thoughts, behaviors of what is acceptable and not acceptable take place. And so when we start going into hearing specific abusive thoughts and feelings, we take that in as that's our reality. That's what we should do. That's what we need to, how we need to show love, how we express love. When you're going into the journaling, I love that she had mentioned that of finding your voice. Did it help you to realize what thoughts were yours versus what were ingrained as what you should be, or what somebody told you you were, but you realized weren't you at all as you were processing through that?
Oh, 110%. It's great that you bring up that point because, you know, I would always say, it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself you're beautiful when somebody's telling you you're not, or that you're not fat when somebody's telling you that you are, especially when you're at that age, you're like a sponge, right? And you start to absorb the environment that you're in. So you can only tell yourself so many times that you're not what they're claiming you are. And then it starts to be like, well, maybe I am that. Maybe I am. You know, my mom used to always tell me she wished she had an abortion. And so think about that from a young age. I remember that thinking, I'm so insignificant to her. Or she'd tell me I was fat all the time. If you saw me when I graduated high school, I was like 100 pounds. So, but it's an image you take on to yourself. And that goes with, you know, even now at 38 years old, I have to be conscientious of what I allow into my space as far as my emotional, my spiritual, all of that mental space, because I'm going to be, you know, 100% with you here. It's not something that goes away overnight. I am still working on it today. I find that in my business relationships, I have sometimes a hard time dealing with men that have authority in business relationships, and that comes from my childhood. I'm still single, ready to mingle. All you viewers out there that want to submit your application. I'm just kidding. But I have found that I'm still single because I tend to attract a certain type of person. That's what I allow, you know, or I'll be with somebody who starts to repress who I am. So it is something you have to work on. It is a project, but I don't want people to be discouraged because I say that. I take light in the fact that it's a project. I love that. I love working on myself. And it's a continuous thing, but it doesn't happen overnight, I guess is what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah, there are a lot of layers when you are in that kind of situation with people that you are supposed to trust, want to trust. So that's very jarring on all the layers that you have to pull back. I love that you mentioned too that with the layers, how you don't want people to be discouraged, but to realize that it's something that you can take as an experience as you're going through it. Later it's going to be hard. It's going to hurt. But when you go through that dark tunnel and you get to that light within every layer that you go through, that's then something that you can then share with someone else because you've experienced it. You've gone through it. You have more empathy and understanding about yourself and the world and about people when you allow yourself to go in that motion. So I love, that was beautiful. And I love how you put that because I think that is really important that people know that there's always a possibility to change, always grow, always learning. But it's not like you're just going to wake up the next day and everything's going to be different and you're not going to have to go through those layers that are going to continually be there for each of us differently.
Right.
Love, love, love it. Okay, so let's go back to S.H.A.R.E.
Okay.
Because we did talk about, especially right now, and it's been something that's been weighing on me as well, that there are so much domestic violence previously. But with us being in our homes right now, there's a lot more statistically that is happening within our homes. And I think a big part of it is helping viewers know what kind of signs to look for, what kind of ways we can approach, even if maybe they haven't experienced some form of abuse. What is a way that you can be an advocate? What is a way that you can help a family or maybe a child if you see that there is some signs of abuse happening within their environment?
Well, there's a few points I want to make on this. The first thing I want to say is the old adage, if you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. It is so true. I've given numerous talks throughout this country on abuse. And one of the biggest messages I give is that if you know abuse is taking place and you say, oh, it's not for me to judge, it's not for me to say, it's not for me to break up that family, it's not for me to report, then I say shame on you. Because that doesn't make you any better than the abuser themselves. I know that is so harsh to say. But if you know it's taking place and you don't stop it, then you're essentially condoning it and it doesn't make you any better than the abuser themselves. You can just put yourself in that category. So think about that the next time you see abuse taking place. Don't brush it off. Don't push it under a rug. Don't say, oh, well, it's not for me to, say something. It is for you to say something. Mm-hmm. Even if you say something, first of all, when you know about abuse, you can report anonymously. Your name doesn't have to be attached to it. They don't have to, it could be your neighbor. It could be a family member. Nobody needs to know that you're the one that reported it. It's not disclosed. So take, light in that it's not that you're, if you're afraid to say something because they're going to know you're the one that reported it. Absolutely not. It can be anonymous. But in conjunction with that, the thing that we do need to realize, and this happened a lot in my home, is until the person that has been abused says, I have been abused, typically word against word, and a lot of things can't happen, meaning, a child taken out of the home or an adult taken out of the home or out of the situation, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So in that direction, I would challenge you that if you know somebody who's being abused, offer them a safe space to just talk. If I can name 3 people right now that I would not be on this planet. One of them was one of my high school teachers, Miss S.H.A.R.E. I always said if I went on the Oprah show, I'm taking her with me because this is the reason why I'm here today, or one of them, is she just listened. She would stay after school with me and I would bawl in her office and just, this is what's going on. This is what I'm going through. She knew I was going through my eating disorder. She was a family and consumer studies teacher. And she'd give me books on, eating healthy and things like that. And she gave me a journal, just stuff that made me feel like she cared, and she didn't even have to give me stuff. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that she spent that time with her undivided attention, listening to me, was huge, because I felt I had no one to go to. I felt I had no voice. I felt that I was alone in all of this. So, I challenge you to just be a listening ear. Make the time to listen. Make the space for healing, for safety, for these people. Another resource, I'm going to give a shameless plug, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
My website is sharethemovement.org. And there's plenty of information on there for phone numbers on how to report abuse, signs of specific abuse, whether it's sexual, mental, emotional. I break it all down for every form. Again, that's sharethemovement.org, and you can find that information on there as well.
Perfect. And I will put that in the comments below so that there is a link that they can go to get that information, which there's tons of great value there that Tiffany has put up there and posted. That's really, even if you don't know anyone that's going through it right now, it's still such great information to be informed, so that you can be aware and you can be able to keep an eye out for those things occurring as they are happening, a lot of times in your backyard, down the street. I remember too, growing up, I had Mrs. Ford. She was my 8th grade English teacher. And I remember that the first time that I really was seen was she had looked at me. I'd written a paper about what I was going through. And I'd reached out to other people before and no one listened to me. But Miss Ford bent down, looked right at me and said, "Laurie, do you know what a strong and powerful voice you have? This is going to make a difference one day." And I still remember that she saw me, but she commented specifically on how strong my voice was, which was probably the first time where I felt it wasn't a negative thing. It was this beautiful, powerful message of, you need to share your voice. It's so amazing. And so as you're sitting there talking about whether it's a mom or not a mom, you can be an impact and an influence for kids that are surrounding you all the time that may not have that support system at home, but you can make a difference. And you can reach out to those children that really just want to be seen, heard, and understood, and want a safe space, like you mentioned, like somewhere where they just are seen and they feel valued.
Well, it can be adults too, It could be our adult friends. It could be one of our great friends in one of our circles that we suspect abuse is happening, but we're kind of afraid to, address the topic. I mean, it's 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 men. So if you look at your circle of friends, and that's before the age of 18. So if you look at your circle of friends, there's somebody statistically that's going through it or has gone through it. And here's the other part to that is, somebody could have gone through it like I did at a young age, or even in their 20s or teenagers or whatever, and they still haven't coped with it. That's another aspect of it.
Yes.
And it's something, they're carrying that inner child with them as they're an adult, 30s, 40s, whatever, and they've never dealt with it. I've had grown men in their 60s come to me and say, my wife, who's like at the back of the room in a workshop, doesn't even know that I went through this, but I'm telling you. A 60-year-old man. People will carry that with them in their lives and never deal with it. So, creating a space with your girlfriends or your guy friends of, hey, you can come to me with anything.
Yes.
Don't ever feel alone.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that too, as well, that it's not just kids, that there are men and women. It's all ages.
Yeah.
All walks of life that really have a story that are probably struggling right now, but need that safe space to just have someone that's going to hold space for them.
Right.
In their moment of trying to figure out and process the things that they have not processed yet, but want to.
Right. So true.
I want to talk about your inner child, your little, beautiful, strong Tiffany in our inner child questions.
Okay.
First question. If you could be an animal, what would you be and why?
So I've always wanted to be a dolphin. I always said if I was going to be an animal, I'd be a dolphin. And there's a few reasons for it. Dolphins are always happy. I mean, they're always smiling. They're always in the water. I'm a water person. I'm a water sign. Actually, I'm a fire sign, but I love water. And I don't know. I've swam with dolphins before, and it's such an amazing experience. And it's so freeing. I've just always wanted to be a dolphin. So there we go.
I love dolphins. I really want to like understand dolphin talk.
Yeah.
And know what they're saying, because it sounds really fun, and they're always trying to say something.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
But they're always smiling. That's the thing I love about them. They always have that automatic smile. So they're just jovial.
Not smile.
Yeah.
When you see the dolphin.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Second question is, what simple things give you joy?
So what simple things give me joy? So let's see. Biggest thing, I'm a cyclist, which you know this, Lori. I ride 30, 40 miles at a time because I love it. Most people think I'm crazy. I do 100-mile bike rides and races. And when I first started biking, I did it to lose weight. So I have a condition called PCOS, which stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I just ballooned up. You know, I used to be a lot skinnier than I am today, but I've accepted my curves. I love my curves now. But I started biking to lose weight, like I say. And then it became a therapy and a spiritual thing for me. And for me, if I've got a problem in my life that I need to work through, I hop on my bike and I'll go right up Immigration Canyon. And as the miles go by and as the hard work is put out, the problems go away. And I'll come back from that bike ride so rejuvenated, realizing, okay, this is the next step. So that's one thing. The other thing that gives me a lot of joy is my home. So I traveled 40 weeks a year for the last 15 years up until 2 years ago. I was gone all of the time. So when I'd have time off, I'd get it 10 days at a time. And people are like, where are you going to go? You're going to go to Hawaii? You're going to go to Florida? Like, where are you going to go with your time off? I'm not going anywhere. I'm going home. So I was bounced around a lot as a kid as well. I went to 23 different elementary schools, and I have a condition called CDO, which is OCD, but the letters have to be in order. So I'm very particular. Like you can see over here, my picture's behind me, everything's spaced. You know, I'm just that way because I grew up in such chaos. So for me, home is my sanctuary. I love to be home. I don't tire of being home. I feel protected at home. It's my home. I own it. You know what I mean? It's just something I didn't have growing up. And I love welcoming people into my home. You know, there's a lot that you can do in the space of your home and creating an environment for healing and a sanctuary, an environment to find your voice. You know, I have a designated room that nobody goes in. Everybody knows to stay out of. And it's my room where I do my meditating. It's where I'm most creative. It's where I write my book. It's where I do my videos. You know, now I have another room that's a podcast room. So, you know, the simplicity of home for me, being able to make a meal and being with my dogs and my little cat. And, you know, it's something that I can control. It's my environment. So biking and home, those are my two simplicities.
I resonate a lot with you on the home aspect of, for so long not having a home, that it takes on a whole new meaning.
Yes.
You have something that is really all yours, and you're creating the energy that you want to create within your home.
Yeah.
There's such a beauty and peace of being able to just have a safe, secure, unconditionally loving space, especially when you didn't have that when you were younger. So it definitely is a different gift that you appreciate a lot more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I love your decorations in the back too, Tiff.
Thank you.
Third question. This
Okay.
one's always a fun one for everyone to mention. So I'm excited to see what you say. What's the oddest food combo you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
Oddest food combo. Okay, your viewers are going to think I'm disgusting. Okay.
Yes, let's go.
So I love ramen noodles and cup of noodles. Okay, I'm a little weird. So there's two things I love to do with ramen noodles. The first thing is make them and put hot Cheetos in them. So then the hot Cheetos melt. So then the red like gets throughout the juice of your ramen, and then the Cheetos get soggy. Are you throwing up yet?
At least right now, and maybe later though.
It's good, I'm telling you. And then, well, I had to eat a lot of ramen when I was, high school and all that. So I had to get creative. So here's the other thing I love to eat with ramen. I call it dragon noodles.
Yeah.
So I make the ramen noodles, drain out all the water. I cut up Spam because that was cheap when I was younger. And I cube it like you would for ham fried rice. And then I do green onion and a fried egg, and I mix it all together, and I call it dragon noodles. Don't knock it till you try it.
Okay, so do you do the Spam one with the Cheetos, or are these two different blends?
Two different blends.
Okay.
So you can make a bowl of ramen, put hot Cheetos in, that's one. And then the other dish is you make your ramen, you drain out all the juice, so it's just your noodles, like dry noodles.
Yeah.
Get a pan, you fry up some Spam after you've cubed it up. You put in some green onion and fry an egg, and then you mix it all together. And it's kind of like a chow mein type,
Yeah.
It's called dragon noodles. That's what I called it.
I actually am very intrigued, and I'm going to try it and see how it goes. Like, I love chow mein. I love stir fry.
You don't like dragon noodles, I'm telling you. But do it with the chicken flavoring. Or you don't even have to put in the flavoring. You can just do like soy sauce and some sesame. I've done that too.
See, now we're talking. So the Cheetos, when you put it in on the first recipe, are they still crunchy? So like you make the ramen and then you put them in crunchy, not the soggy stuff.
No,
right?
You put it in crunchy, but it gets soggy from the juice. I'm so disgusting.
No, I really, honestly, I'm like, okay, I could do the crunch because I love crunchy stuff mixed in with like noodles and rice.
Yes.
I'm doing it. Then we'll take a picture and I'll video this turnout. I love it.
Not
and I'm
the most healthy.
either, so thank
Not
you.
the most healthy, but it's good. I still crave it from time to time.
We should have, like, just for fun on another episode in the fall, like, okay, everyone get your own ramens and let's just throw stuff in. Like, just make your own ramen dish and we'll all just
good idea.
What we made.
Are you in ramen recipes? That would be awesome.
Are you in as one of my chef guests?
Yeah, of course I'm in, girl.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Sweet. I want to know before we end today, when is your book coming out, and will you tell us the title of your book?
Awesome. So the title of my book is The Throwaway Girl. Kids that are put into foster care are termed throwaway kids, and that's kind of where I came up with the idea for the book title. Book has been done for a little bit now. I started it when I was 18 years old. If you know who Dan Clark is, he wrote in Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah.
He is the reason I wrote this book. He saw me give a motivational talk at a school and took me to lunch and said, write a book about your life. You have to write a book. So at 18, so 20 years ago, I started writing this puppy, and I haven't put it out yet. And I got to say this. The last podcast I was on the I Am Salt Lake podcast with Chris Holyfield, and he asked me the same question, and I got real with him. So I'm going to get real with you. I have really tried to nurture a relationship with my biological father, despite the things he's done to me, and he still is very like emotionally abusive to me in many ways. I haven't put the book out because I'm afraid of how do I put it? He's in the book, right? And the abuse is in the book. My mom, I don't have a relationship with her, so I don't have that attachment. I'm just so worried people are going to read it and know that he's my dad, even though I've changed the names in the book, and that he's got to relive what he's done to me. Because he has changed in many ways. And it's stupid. It's so stupid that I'm letting that hold me back. And I have so many people saying, where's this book? When's it coming out? So when I had that epiphany on the last podcast I was on and actually said it out loud, like, okay, I'm admitting this is the reason why. I'm pressing on, girl. I'm pressing on. I'm getting this thing done. I need to stop being a perfectionist. I'm going to say by end of the year, it'll be in hand, if not sooner. But if your viewers want a copy, a signed copy, I am doing a pre-order list.
Perfect.
So I don't know if you want to, like, how they could get in touch with me, how you want to do that. But I am doing a pre-order list if you want a copy of the book. And 30 cents on the dollar goes back towards the charity for the cost of the book. So if it's $10, I haven't decided what I'm going to sell it for yet. $3 of it would go to S.H.A.R.E. So
yes, I love this so much. And we'll talk, Tiffany, and put something together for the viewers as your story. I'm so excited for your story whenever it comes out and when your heart feels ready. It's going to be such an amazing book with so much value. So yes, let's coordinate something together and we'll figure that out. I'm sending a lot of love to you because I also understand that I've had a book that I should have had out last year. And I had trauma surrounding some themes and people. And I made a choice to just hold back for a little bit because I needed to process a few things before I put it out into the world. And that's just a part of the journey. Like, I really feel that there's, like you had mentioned, there's certain spaces and times for things to keep moving forward, but allow that space for whatever is coming up as things unfold, as you continue to keep moving forward. So whenever it comes out, I'm rooting for you. And I love your voice and your heart and your story. And we will share that with the viewers.
It'll be this year, girl. It'll be this year. Mark my words. I can't keep sitting on it.
Right. Now I'm holding you to it because you said it.
Do it.
What last advice would you like to give the viewers before we end today, Tiff?
I already said it once, but I'm going to say it again. It's the start that stops you. If you don't like where you are emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, any of those things, change it. It starts with a single step. And then once you take that step and you realize, oh, I didn't die. I'm not going to eat out of garbage cans. I'm not going to be homeless. I could take another step and then another step. And then you keep that momentum going. So I challenge your viewers, whether it's something that you're dealing with emotionally, or there's a certain project you haven't gotten done, like somebody's book we just talked about, get it done. It starts with one step. And once you take that step, you'll realize that you can get further along and you'll make it happen. So, and also don't use your past as a crutch. That's another big one.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. Too many people say, I can do drugs, or I can do this, or I can do that because this happened to me. No, it's not okay. That's a crutch. Use it as a stepping stone to be a better person, as a stepping stone to a better life, as a stepping stone to help those around you, whatever the case may be. Don't lean on your past as a crutch.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining us today and for sharing your truth and your voice with every one of us. If you have any questions for Tiffany, I will have the link below on where to reach her. I would love for you to kind of give us a few locations of where they can find you that you use most often on social media, Tiff.
Okay, so I do have a website for me personally. It's coachtiffanybarnes.com. coachtiffanybarnes.com. And then on social media, on Instagram, I am at Lady Airbnb. That's what I do in the daytime to make some money is I run Airbnbs. I have my own Airbnbs. So at Lady Airbnb. And then if you want to find me on Facebook, you can just type in Miss MISS Tiffany Barnes and you will find my business page there. And I'd love to have you on there. I'm always sharing content all over the place, but usually good stuff. So
thank you for joining us today. That was fantastic. And for all of you, before we end today, just remember as you go about your day to find the things that are constantly working around you. Look for the pieces within yourself and the world to be grateful for, as there is much beauty and light and love. And remember that someone is always looking out for you. We see you. Take care of yourself. Make yourself a priority. And we will see you. This is the end of the first season. Second season will be starting August 31st. Look forward to having you back. Have a beautiful rest of the week, and we'll talk to you in August. Thanks, Tiff. Take care, all.
Bye, guys. See ya.